Hello everyone. Israel strikes Iran, which caused Bitcoin to dump a little. So we're going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin chart, the high time frames, low time frames. I'll give my thoughts, what I think is going to happen. As you guys know, I focus on the charts mainly. You can say all you want about the news, but in my opinion, the news is always in the charts. All right. So let's take a look. I'll give my plans, what I think is going to happen next, and how I'm looking to play it. All right. So we're starting on the weekly time frame on Bitcoin. And as you can see, I have this clean weekly range here, which is basically the range high was former all-time highs at approximately $110,000. After that, we made a higher low on the weekly, came all the way back down to 75K, which is where we bottomed, and started running up again from where we made a fresh all-time high into 112K, okay? Now, the important thing to notice here in the past weeks of price action is that we haven't closed a weekly candle above former all-time highs, and that in my opinion is a little bit concerning. We swept all-time highs here, right, and closed back below, and as you can see, we just retested these range highs and sold off, and the weekly is currently looking a little bit ugly. That, in my opinion, on its own is a good reason to be a little cautious here, not to go all in, risk on, right? Not go too deep in longs, but be a little bit cautious, all right? What's going to be important here, in my opinion, is going to be the weekly close. If the weekly close closes anywhere here, I wouldn't be surprised if we see continuation to the downside. Okay, if you compare this price action to the price action that we had right here, right? If we draw a line, you see that we swept the highs there as well, closed back below, and look at what happened after, right? All the way back down to range lows. I'm not calling for a move like that, a move of that magnitude, right? But it is a good sign and just good to see what is possible, right? You always see people say like, this is not possible, that is not possible. Well, let me tell you, anything is possible in this market. So if we close the weekly in the red, like how we are trading right now, I think there is a good possibility that we see continuation to the downside from there and test at least this range mean level, okay? So close the weekly here. I'll be looking for shorts, ideally on a little retest, and target at least range mean. Liquidity below these two weekly lows into demand right here at range lows in between 77 and 88K, all right? I could, of course, see this move entirely back down to range lows, at which point we'll be looking for longs on the sweep of range lows. But for now, I think that's a little bit too low to already start targeting there. I think if we start, if we close the weekly, how it looks right now, right, that a safe target after that would be range mean, all right? But, of course, very important, we haven't closed the weekly yet. Right, we had that bad news. Bitcoin started selling off. We were at range highs. Maybe we would have broken out otherwise. We don't know, right? But what we do know is that we haven't seen a weekly close yet. So we could still turn things around. If we start pumping from here, right, and we close the weekly in the green, maybe we break out next week, right? So in my opinion, not a bad idea to step away from the charts over the weekend a bit, enjoy your life outside of the charts and come back fresh on Monday, see where we're at, and then make fresh plans. All right. So let's take a look at some other time frames. So on the lower time frames, as you can see on the daily, we started selling off after the close. What does that tell you? Well, nothing too much, but what I see here and what stands out on the chart is that we don't have a wick to the upside on the daily candle, and that we sold off pretty aggressively into just a key area of support right about here, a little bit higher. As you can see, that's been acting as support, wicked in there, ugly close, but that swept the lows and straight smash back above, telling us that this was just a sweep. Well, we just wicked into that support area again, right? After the news. So yeah, the question is this gonna hold or not, right? It is a little bit risky, as I said, to look for longs here, but in my opinion, there's a good chance that we at least sweep that flat high, that flat daily top here, and do something like this, and then maybe chill and move lower. So that's why I marked out that level, right? Let me mark out this area with a cleaner box as well. Support area. So pretty much trapped in between support, the blue area, and where I would say is key resistance from the high to the low. We draw our OTE, which is resting right about here, pivotal level as well, as you can see. So as long as we don't see any significant pump in here and strength, right, at which point I would assume that we see continuation to the upside. I think we're simply ranging in between this support and this resistance. So it does make sense, in my opinion, to look for longs down here, but take profit on the sweep of this or a pump into OTE. If we see upside from here and pump straight into this OTE area and see weakness from there, then I think it makes sense to be a little more, not long into this area at least, because that's gonna be a fat resistance. All right, so what do I think is gonna happen next? I have no clue, but I just trade what I see, and at the moment I see that we aggressively sold off into support, so I wouldn't be surprised if we at least see a bounce. First target would be this flat daily candle. As you can see, we're turning around a bit here, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in the coming hours. From there, maybe sweep lower, make a higher low, right? And then see a real pump back into OTE. And that's where we're really gonna have to make a decision. Does it want to trade lower from there? If so, likely lower. Or do we pump in here, dips getting bought, and see strength at that point, breakout likely. Those are the plans on the lower time frames, but as I said at the start, the most important thing to me will be the weekly close. Once again, if all of that price action that I just talked about on the lower time frames can happen within these 2 weekly boundaries, but the close will be important. If we close in the red, I would say downside is more likely. If we close in the green, I'd say more likely we see a breakout and trade a lot higher. All right, so let's see what we get over the weekend. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to my YouTube, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.